Hello and welcome to day 9 of the Halloween Craft Countdown, where I'm releasing a new Cricut craft every day for the whole of October. I recently purchased a Cricut mini press and I've been excited to get to use it, so I wanted to make sure that one project in this countdown would let me use my mini press. So I came up with personalised Halloween toys. This type of project was really popular last Christmas with people personalising the Dollar Tree elves with names, and I thought if it can be done for Christmas, why can't it be done for Halloween as well? So I bought this really cute little bat and then I've personalised it with gold glitter vinyl, which is stuck on using my mini press. So in this video, I'll show you how you can work out the sizing of things to cut from vinyl on soft toys, especially when it's not an easy shape to do. We'll then stick our vinyl on, and again we'll learn how to stick it on squidgy toys, which is a little bit more difficult than usual because it's harder to get an even pressure. But luckily the mini press makes it super easy. So let's fly on over and work out how we're going to measure these little wings to get our letters. So here's my bat toy and I need to measure the spaces. Now, I know this one's already decorated, so apologies about that. I did record this bit before I made my bat, so I was measuring the empty wings and everything, but I think I accidentally deleted that video because I can't find it. So I'm just re-recording it to show you how to measure it. Okay, so I've got my ruler and I'm just going to look at the different places where I want to add my vinyl, and so I can see how big I need to make it. So if I put my ruler against the wing, I can see at the longest point it is about 2.5 inches, and then as it goes up it gets shorter, so at the top it's about 2 inches if I'm putting things on at an angle. So overall, I want to make my design a bit smaller than that. So if my longest part is 2.5 inches, I'm going to make sure the width of my design is around 2 inches so that I've got space on either side when I stick the vinyl on. With the word happy above, I made that a bit smaller, so I've got 2 inches at the top for the final width and 2 inches along the bottom. So as long as this is smaller than that, it will be fine. So I think I can get away with doing 2 inches by about 1 inches as my rectangle, which I'll draw in Design Space. So as long as my design fits inside that rectangle of 2 inches by 1 inch, I know that it'll fit on the wing. And again, sorry, it's a bit confusing because obviously I've already done the design, but just pretend that this is empty and has not got any vinyl on it. Alright, so the same on the other side. The wings are the same size, so I'll be able to do my design in a 2 by 1 inch rectangle there. For the middle, just have a little look, and this is going to be square and about 1 inch by 1 inch will be a good size. So imagine this doesn't already have the pumpkin on. If this was just empty, I'd be measuring a 1 inch by 1 inch square to create the design in the middle. So go ahead and measure your toy. You might find that maybe yours is more circular than square, in which case when you jump into Design Space in a minute, you might want to draw a circle or an oval as your base, but I'm going to do squares and rectangles and I'll show you what I mean now. Now I'm in Design Space, I can start working with those measurements. So I'm going to first go into Shapes and choose a square. Over in the top where it says the size for the width and the height, I'm going to click on the padlock icon so that I can turn this into a rectangle and then make the width the same size that I measured. So I'm going to go 2 inches wide and 1 inch tall. So remember, this rectangle was smaller than the overall size of my bat wing, which means when I create my text inside, I know that it will fit after I've cut it out from my vinyl. Whilst I'm here, I'm also going to create the square to put the pumpkin in the middle, and that was going to be a 1 inch square. And then I'm going to right click on the rectangle and duplicate it so that I've got one to do the other side of the bat wing. You can zoom in using the button in the bottom left, and I would recommend doing that because you're probably working on something that's quite small So if you zoom in, it'll be easier to see. I'm going to change these so that they are all white, so that I've just got that outline I can see. So that just makes it a little bit easier for adding all the text inside. You won't get distracted by a grey background colour. Okay, so now I can think about what's going on my bat, and I want the left side to say Happy Halloween. So I'm going to go into text, and I think I'll do each word separately, and I'll start with the word Halloween because that's the longest one. So I need to make sure that this long word will fit inside my rectangle. I'm just going to make this smaller. And then think about what font I want to choose. So to change the font, double click, select the word, and then go into the font drop down on the top of the screen. You can search for all, which is all the fonts in Cricut and on your computer, or to just look at the fonts you've got installed, you can click on the system link. Now I have already installed a font which is called Halloween Pumpkin, and I'm going to use this one because it is quite a fun font and it's got nice thick letters. For doing this, because what we're going to be cutting out is so small, you don't want to choose a really thin font because when you try and take it off the vinyl, it will probably just break, or it might not even be able to cut that thin. So a nice chunky font works better. This font does have good letter spacing between all of the letters in the word. Sometimes when you change a font, it can put in big gaps between all the letters. So I might just change the font a minute just to show you what I mean. This wouldn't actually be a good font to choose because it's got these thin bits on the edges, but it's just to show the point that with some fonts, Design Space will put this big gap in between all the letters, and you don't want to have that. So if you're using a script font where the letters should be joined, you can right click on the word and press Ungroup, and then that puts all of the letters on their own individual layer, so you can then just click and drag them so that they're touching as they should. So I'll just quickly do this to show you how it's done, just in case your font needs this work doing to it. So once you've moved it all and you're happy, I'd put a little bit more effort into it than I did, but then you can drag a box around the whole word, go to the top of the layers panel and press group so we've got all the letters. And then what I like to do to help this is make it really big and then go down to the bottom and press weld. So if I just open up this group, you can see at the moment there's one layer for every single letter, but after I press weld, it's now all merged into one. So you need to make sure you do that if you've split your letters up. So if you ungroup your word, you'll need to weld it at the end. And then once you've welded, you can resize it so that it will fit on your square. But I'm not going to use that font, I'm going to use the pumpkin one. So let's just do that again. Halloween. And go back to the pumpkin font. I'll put a link to where you can download this font in the description of this video because it is really good for Halloween projects. So I'm just going to make sure that this fits inside my rectangle. Remember, this rectangle is the space that we've got on the bat wing. I then need to do the word happy, and I want this to be the same size. So I'm going to click on the word Halloween, right click and then duplicate, and then move this above and change the word to happy. I'm actually going to cut these as separate things on my vinyl. I'm not going to group them together because I want to have this flexibility to position the word happy separately to Halloween on the bat wing. Just because I'm not actually working on a pure rectangle, you've got the curves of the wing. So if I was to join these together, then I might just get a little bit stuck trying to fit it on. I know these words will fit in my rectangle though, so I can just click on this rectangle and then hide it by clicking on the eye in the layers panel, because I don't actually want to cut out these rectangles, we're just using them as our guideline. The next one I'm going to do is my name to go on the other side of the wing. So again, I'm going to duplicate this word Halloween, move it down to my other box, and then change it to have my name on. There we are, and I might make that a little bit bigger so it will fill the space. And that's all I need to do for that one, so I can just hide that other rectangle by clicking the eye, and now it's just the square left to do. I want to add a little pumpkin in the middle of the bat, so I'll go into images and have a search for pumpkin. Now whatever image you choose, you need to remember that we are cutting something that's going to be quite small, so you want to choose a picture that's fairly simple and all one colour, just so that your Cricut machine can cut it out nice and easily. So I'm going to have a little look through these pumpkins. That one might work. I like this one here. I like the shape of it, so I'm going to choose that one instead of that first one. Click Insert Images, and I'm going to change it to black to match the other words, because I want to cut all of this out of the same sheet of vinyl. And then all you need to do is resize it and rotate it if you need to, so that it will fit inside the square. Okay, there we go. So now I can just hide the square and then go ahead and click Make It. And this is going to put it all on one sheet. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? That's quite hard to see because it's black on black. I'm just going to change this to an orange colour so that you can see what I'm about to do a little bit easier. Alright, so click Make It. And this is going to show it all on one piece of vinyl. Now what I want to do is I want to be able to cut my vinyl so that I've got a little bit of space around each of the words, which is how I'm going to position them on the bat. So I'm just clicking and dragging each of the layers so they've got a bit of space between them, which will make it easier to cut everything out once it's cut with vinyl. Now we're doing this with heat transfer vinyl, which means that we need to mirror our design. So whenever you're using iron-on, then you want to mirror. So click the little button on the left which says mirror, and it will flip everything around. So that is what we want for this. So now we can just hit continue. And it's going to complain because my maker isn't turned on. Hang on a minute. Then you can set your base material depending on what you're cutting it out of. So I tend to find that either vinyl or everyday iron-on work quite well. And then you can just follow the steps in Design Space to cut out your vinyl. And then once you have weeded it, so once you've taken off all of the excess part of the vinyl, then it's ready to iron on to the toy. So I will show you how to do that in the next part of this video. So here are my words and my pumpkin, and I've weeded them on the carrier sheet. I just need to cut them up so that I can position them on my toy. You could cut it up before you weed it, but I find that this is easier because I was able to just peel all the excess off in one go, which was nice and easy. Alright, so I'm going to start with the Happy Halloween. Here's my little bat, and these wings have got seams in them so they're not flat, so it's going to be a little bit tricky to get everything to stick, but I have faith that we can do it. So I'm going to use some heat-proof tape to stick the little bits of carrier sheet to the bat so it doesn't move about. You need to make sure you use the heat-proof tape because normal sticky tape will melt when you heat it up with your heat press. So you don't want that because you'll be left with a big load of sticky horribleness. So yeah, choose the heat-proof tape. I'm going to position the word Halloween first because it's longer, so I need to make sure that it's going to fit. There we go, and I think I'm just going to need to trim the top of the carrier sheet a bit closer so I can fit the word happy on above it. Okay, there we are. So I've put that as flat as I can get it, and now I'm going to put some tape along it to hold it in position. I'm also going to add on the happy word, and again I think I just need to trim off a little bit of the excess of the carrier sheet, and then I'm going to put that one there. I'm going to put a bit of tape between the two to stick them together, but make sure your tape doesn't cover any of the letters if you can help it. Okay, so that's all nice and stuck on now with my tape. So it's time to turn on my mini press. So you can push the button on the side and push it twice, and then 2 of the little lines will go orange. So we're going to wait for those to go green, which will mean that it is all nice and hot. Move my other pieces out of the way for now. I've got this on a heat-proof mat to protect my surface, and you also want to be careful because we're working on quite a small space. You want to be careful not to accidentally heat press your fingers because that will very much hurt. So my heat press just made a little beep and the icon has gone green, which means it is now hot. So I'm going to go over my letters, trying to keep it as flat as possible to try and get the best transfer. And then I'm going to set a timer on my phone for 20 seconds. So my timer is set, and I'm just going to go over the letters with my mini press. So I'm putting a little bit of pressure on, and I'm just going to go over each letter individually to transfer it. I'm kind of using the tip of the mini press because these letters are quite small. Oh, there's my timer. So I'm just going to go over the Halloween a little bit more because I didn't quite get time to finish it. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to wait a little bit for that to cool down. This is a warm peel vinyl, so it does need to be warm when I peel it off, but I don't want it to be too hot that I can't touch it. So let's just wait for that to cool and then see if it has transferred. So that Y hasn't quite transferred, but it looks like the rest of it has. I think that L is still stuck to the sheet. So if you need to, just go over the letters again that haven't managed to transfer. Just give them a little bit of pressure. It's tricky on this one because of all the seams in the wings, so it's not actually going onto a flat surface. Alright, let's let that cool down a little bit and see if that has done it any better. So I'm peeling off my Halloween and that is all looking like it's stuck nicely. So hopefully the happy one as well. Let's just give it a go. Yep, that is all nicely transferred. There aren't any little bits peeling up. So actually the Y is a little bit, but we can live with that. And there we go, that's the first wing all done. In fact, you know what, I'm going to just try and stick that Y on a bit. I'm going to get my transfer paper back and stick it over. So you want to make sure you cover up all the letters because you don't want to go over it with the heat press without the paper on, without the plastic on. Otherwise you'll risk burning off what you've already done. I tried that on my first little bat. I've already made that mistake, so don't do it. I'm just going to go over this little edge of the Y. Get that stuck. Yeah, now that's all stuck and that's not going to come off. 1 done, 2 to go. So next I'm going to add the name to the other side. So it's kind of very similar to how we did the other one. So I'm going to position the name on where I want it to go and make sure it's all nice and flat up against. And then get some heat-proof tape and stick this on. Okay, so let's get that nice and flat and then set 20 seconds and start ironing. Let's wait for it to cool down a little bit. I think I can already see that S hasn't quite transferred. Oh, it has, it's fine. Ah, that worked out nicely. There we go, there's the name. And now just one more, just to add our little pumpkin to the middle. And this is going to be a little bit harder because it's so squidgy, because this is the main bulk of the toy. So ironing it on will be a little bit trickier. I'm just going to put my pumpkin on nice and straight in the middle. And again, we need the tape, especially as this isn't actually a flat surface. So that's all nicely taped on. I can set my timer for 20 seconds and press it on. So you want to be careful that you don't put your press on any of the bits you've already transferred, because you run the risk of melting it off. Here we are. Let that cool down a little bit so I don't burn my fingers. And there we are. Woohoo! Our little bat is now all nice and personalised and ready to give as a gift this Halloween. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for loads more Halloween videos. I'm currently doing the Halloween Craft Countdown, which is a new Cricut project every day for the whole of October. So be sure to subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on tomorrow's video. Thank you for watching.